The city was a labyrinth of shadows and secrets, a symphony of sirens and distant shouts. Rain slicked the streets, reflecting the neon glow of liquor stores and all-night diners. Anna worked the graveyard shift at a near-deserted gas station. The fluorescent lights hummed, casting a sterile glare. The bell above the door chimed occasionally. Anna, lost in thought, wiped down the counter. Another long, lonely night in the city that never sleeps. The clock on the wall ticked past 2 a.m. A moth beat its wings frantically against the glass. Anna watched it, a sense of unease settling in her stomach. She wasn't sure why, but tonight felt different, heavier, like the air itself was thick with anticipation. Something was coming. The bell above the door chimed again, but no one was there. Anna shivered, pulling her cardigan tighter around her. It was probably nothing, just the wind. She tried to shake off the feeling, but it clung to her like the damp night air. She glanced at the clock again. 3:28 a.m. Almost time to go home, almost time to escape the oppressive silence of the gas station. The old clock on the wall clicked forward. 3:30 a.m. Just 3 more minutes. Anna started gathering her things. The phone rang. The shrill sound made her jump. She stared at the phone. Taking a deep breath, she answered. "Hello? This is Anna?" A voice whispered. "Hello, Anna." The voice was deep and resonant. The only response was a low chuckle. Fear coiled in her gut. Anna gripped the phone tighter, her knuckles turning white. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. The voice on the other end of the line didn't answer her question directly. Instead, it began to describe her day, mundane details, where she had coffee, the route she took to work, things that anyone could have observed. But then the voice shifted, taking on a more sinister tone. It described how she took a shortcut through the park, how she fumbled for her keys, the way she looked over her shoulder, convinced she was being followed. Anna's breath caught in her throat. There was no way this person could have known those things. No one had been in the park at that hour. No one had seen her, except someone had. A cold dread washed over her. She wasn't alone. Someone was watching her. The voice continued, recounting the events of her day with chilling accuracy. Each detail, no matter how insignificant, was relayed back to her with a disturbing relish. It was as if the voice was reliving her day, experiencing it through her. Anna hung up the phone, her hand shaking. She wanted to believe it was a prank, a cruel joke by someone who knew her. But deep down, a primal fear told her otherwise. This was something more, something darker. She glanced at the clock again, 3:37 a.m. The number seemed to burn into her retinas, a sinister omen. She tried to rationalize the call, to convince herself it was nothing more than a coincidence. But the voice, the way it knew things, it was like a spider web, slowly enveloping her, tightening its grip with each passing moment. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was in danger, a prey being stalked by an unseen predator. The gas station, once a beacon of familiarity, now felt like a cage, trapping her with her fear. The shadows seemed to deepen, stretching out like grasping claws. The silence was no longer empty, but filled with whispered threats and the chilling knowledge that she was being watched. Her safe haven had become a hunting ground, and she was the prey. Anna couldn't remember the drive home. It was a blur of rain-streaked streets and flickering streetlights. Her mind raced, replaying the chilling phone call, the gravelly voice seeping into her thoughts like poison. The familiar comfort of her apartment, usually a sanctuary, now felt stifling, the air thick with unease. She tried to shake off the feeling, telling herself it was just a prank call, a cruel joke. But the voice, the things it knew, it felt too real, too close, as if the caller was breathing down her neck, watching her every move. She checked the locks on her door, the windows, even the fire escape. Every creak of the floorboards, every groan of the old building sent shivers down her spine. Sleep was impossible. She tossed and turned, the phone call playing over and over in her mind, the voice, the details, the chilling realization that she was being watched. Dawn broke, painting the city in hues of grey and orange, but it brought no comfort. The fear remained, a knot of dread in the pit of her stomach. This was just the beginning. She knew it. The voice on the phone had promised as much. The next few days passed in a blur of anxiety and paranoia. Anna went through the motions of her life, but fear was a constant companion. She couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The phone rang every night at 3:33 a.m. The gravelly voice recounted her day in detail, every interaction, every place she visited. It was as if the caller was living her life alongside her. Each call chipped away at her sanity. Anna tried to change her routine. She took different routes, avoided the park, stayed at a friend's place, but it was no use. The calls persisted, like a radio wave tuned to her fear. Anna found herself trapped in a terrifying routine. Go to work, try to forget the chilling phone calls, fail, go home, double-check every lock, every window, lie awake, dreading the inevitable ring of the phone at 3:33 a.m. Repeat. The city, once a source of comfort and anonymity, now felt like a hunting ground. Every shadow held the potential for danger, every stranger a suspect. She started seeing the stalker everywhere, a fleeting glimpse of a dark figure in a crowd, a pair of eyes watching her from a passing car. Was it her imagination, or was her stalker growing bolder, enjoying her descent into paranoia? Sleep, when it came, was plagued by nightmares. Visions of the gravelly voice, transformed into a monstrous entity, haunted her dreams. She would wake up in a cold sweat, her heart pounding, the echo of the voice ringing in her ears. One night, after another bone-chilling phone call, Anna noticed something different. A slight tremor in the voice, a hint of vulnerability beneath the gravelly facade. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there. A crack in the caller's carefully constructed persona. Hope, fragile and flickering, sparked within her. Perhaps this wasn't some unstoppable monster toying with her. Perhaps it was a person driven by their own demons, just as she was driven by her fear. For the first time since the nightmare began, Anna felt a surge of defiance. She would not be a victim, she would fight back. She would find out who was behind the voice, what they wanted, and why they were doing this to her. The fear was still there, a cold fist clenching around her heart, but it was different now. It was tempered by a steely resolve. She would not go down without a fight. Anna began to pay closer attention to the details in the caller's words. Was there a pattern to their observations, a clue to their identity? She started retracing her steps, revisiting the places the caller mentioned, searching for any connection, any hint of who might be watching her. The game was afoot, a dangerous dance between hunter and prey, but Anna was no longer content to be the hunted. She would turn the tables, use the caller's obsession with her against them. She would find them before they found her. Anna's world, once predictable and mundane, had become a disorienting hall of mirrors. Every corner held the potential for danger, every face a mask concealing her tormentor. The line between reality and the nightmare the caller was weaving around her blurred, each more terrifying than the last. The nightly calls continued, the gravelly voice as punctual as ever, but the content shifted, took on a new unsettling dimension. No longer content with recounting the past, the voice began to predict her future. Small things at first, the colour of a stranger's coat, the song playing on the radio, the exact change in her pocket. Each prediction, unnervingly accurate, chipped away at her already fragile sense of control. The fear, once a dull ache, sharpened into a constant gnawing anxiety. The city, once a source of comfort and anonymity, now felt like a labyrinth designed to disorient and trap her. The walls were closing in, the air thick with unseen menace. The caller's predictions grew bolder, more invasive. They knew what she would order at a restaurant before she even looked at the menu. They described the thoughts that flitted through her mind as she walked down the street, her innermost anxieties laid bare. It was as if the caller had become a part of her, a shadowy passenger in her mind, privy to her every thought, every fear. Anna tried to regain a sense of control, to create chaos in her own life, to disrupt the eerie predictability that had become her prison. She changed her routines on a whim, made impulsive decisions, even dyed her hair a shocking shade of red, but it was no use. The caller anticipated her every move, their voice a mocking echo of her own internal struggles. "Trying to throw me off your scent, Anna?" the voice rasped through the phone one night, a hint of amusement in its tone. "Don't bother, I'm always a step ahead, I'm everywhere and nowhere, I'm you." Anna's investigation into the caller's identity stalled. Every lead she pursued turned out to be a dead end, every potential clue a cruel taunt. It was as if the caller was deliberately leaving a trail of breadcrumbs only to lead her deeper into the labyrinth of their design. Her friends, initially concerned, began to distance themselves, their concern morphing into thinly veiled skepticism. They couldn't see the threat, couldn't hear the chilling voice that haunted her every waking moment. To them she was unraveling, her fear a self-inflicted wound. The isolation, once a source of comfort, became another weapon in the caller's arsenal. They were stripping away her support system piece by piece, leaving her alone and vulnerable. Anna was trapped in a web of her own terror, the threads tightening with each passing day. One night the caller presented Anna with a challenge. A test of her sanity, her courage, her very will to survive. "Let's play a game, Anna," the voice purred through the phone, a hint of sadistic glee in its tone. "I'm thinking of a place," the voice continued. "A place you've been before. A place that holds special significance for us both. Find it, Anna, and maybe, just maybe, I'll let you in on a little secret." The instructions were cryptic, the stakes terrifyingly high, but for the first time since the nightmare began, Anna felt a flicker of hope. This wasn't just a game to the caller, it was personal. And if she could figure out the rules, she might be able to turn the tables, to use the caller's obsession with her against them. The caller's instructions echoed in Anna's mind, a place they both knew, a place of significance. Her mind raced, sifting through memories, searching for a connection, a clue, anything that might lead her to the answer. The city, bathed in the eerie glow of streetlights, became a hunting ground once more. But this time, Anna wasn't just reacting to the caller's manipulations. She was the one calling the shots, following the twisted path they had laid out for her, determined to reach the destination before it was too late. The night was young, the air thick with anticipation. The game had begun, and the stakes had never been higher. Anna walked the rain-slicked streets, the city lights blurred and distorted by the downpour. Each step was a beat in the frantic rhythm of her heart, each breath a shallow gasp in the suffocating grip of fear. The caller's game had begun, turning her world into a macabre treasure hunt, a twisted maze where the prize was her sanity. The caller's words echoed in her mind, cryptic clues leading her on a chase through the labyrinth of memory. A place we both know, the voice had rasped, a place of significance. Each landmark, each familiar corner took on a sinister undertone, a potential piece of the puzzle. The city, once a source of comfort, had become a hunting ground, but this time Anna was not just the prey, she was a hunter too. Determined to unmask her tormentor, she embraced the fear, wielding it like a weapon. Anna's search led her to the shadowed corners of her memory, forgotten places that held a strange allure, a chilling resonance with the caller's words. She revisited her childhood home, a Victorian mansion now shrouded in darkness, the paint peeling like scabs on old wounds. The overgrown garden held whispers of laughter and forgotten dreams, now tainted by the knowledge that her stalker might have stood in the very same spot. She sat on a swing set that had once been her refuge, the rusty chains creaking like mournful whispers. The laughter of children, once a symphony of joy, now seemed a haunting echo in the stillness. Had the caller watched her here, a silent observer to her youthful innocence, a collector of her past? A chill snaked down her spine as she realized the truth. This wasn't just a game to the caller, it was a pilgrimage, a journey into the darkest recesses of her past. The clues led Anna deeper into the city, each location pulling her further down the rabbit hole of her own history. A park where she had her first kiss, now desolate and shadowed. A library once filled with countless hours, now unsettlingly silent. And then, the final clue. A faded photograph under her windshield wiper. It depicted a dingy bar, the Crossroads. Anna had been there once, years ago, the night she decided to leave her hometown. The realization struck her. The caller wasn't leading her to a place. They were leading her to a moment. A crossroads in her life, a decision setting her on a collision course. The Crossroads was a dive bar frozen in time, a relic of a bygone era. The air reeked of stale beer and regret, the patrons' spectral figures lost in their own private purgatories. Anna stepped inside, her heart pounding a frantic tattoo against her ribs. The bartender, a grizzled man with eyes that had seen too much, looked up from polishing glasses. A flicker of recognition crossed his face. "You're back," he rasped, his voice a low rumble. "He's been waiting for you." Anna's blood ran cold. "He?" she whispered, her voice barely audible above the murmur of conversation and the clinking of glasses. "Who's been waiting for me?" The bartender jerked his head towards a shadowy figure seated in the darkest corner of the bar. "Go on then," he said, a hint of grim satisfaction in his voice. "Don't keep him waiting." Anna's breath caught in her throat as she saw him, the figure in the shadows, the owner of the gravelly voice that had haunted her for weeks. Her legs felt like lead, her body frozen in place, as if the very air had turned to ice. She wanted to scream, to run, to disappear into the night, but something held her there, rooted to the spot. Fear, yes, but also a strange, morbid curiosity. The figure rose from the shadows, his features slowly coming into focus in the dim light. And then A voice, low and menacing, cut through the haze of cigarette smoke and whispered conversations. "Hello, Anna," it rasped. "We have a lot to talk about." The screen fades to black. The sound of a phone ringing, echoing in the darkness. 3:33 a.m. The face that emerged from the shadows was not what Anna expected. It wasn't monstrous or disfigured or even particularly remarkable. It was ordinary. A face lost in the crowd, easily forgotten. And yet there was something unsettling about his eyes. They glinted in the dim light, cold and calculating, like shards of obsidian reflecting a darkness that ran deeper than the darkest night. "You," Anna stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "You're the one... the phone calls." The man smiled, a slow, predatory stretching of his lips that sent shivers down her spine. It wasn't a pleasant expression. It was the smile of a predator baring its teeth, a promise of violence thinly veiled by a veneer of civility. "You seem surprised, Anna," he said, his voice a low, gravelly purr that sent chills down her spine. It was the voice from her nightmares, the voice that had whispered her darkest fears, now given a physical form, a terrifying reality. He gestured to the empty seat beside him. "Sit. Let's talk." Anna hesitated, every instinct screaming at her to run, to escape the suffocating presence of this man. But his gaze held her captive, a hypnotic pull that drew her in like a moth to a flame. She sank into the seat, her body tense, her every sense on high alert. The man leaned closer, his breath hot on her cheek, the scent of stale cigarettes and something else. Something acrid and metallic like blood on a hot summer night. "You want to know why, don't you, Anna?" he whispered, his voice a sibilant whisper that slithered into her ear, coiling around her thoughts like a venomous snake. "Why you? Why these calls? Why this game?" He leaned back, a cruel parody of a confidant, and began to speak. His words tumbled out, a torrent of madness and obsession, painting a picture of a mind spiraling into darkness. He spoke of watching her, of studying her every move, of becoming intimately acquainted with her hopes, her dreams, her darkest fears. He described each encounter in excruciating detail, his voice taking on a feverish pitch as he relived each moment of her terror, each crack in her carefully constructed facade of normalcy. He spoke of blood and moonlight, of victims claimed in the dead of night, their screams echoing in the silence of his twisted desires. And through it all, a single, terrifying truth emerged. This wasn't just about fear, it was about control, about possessing her, owning her, becoming the architect of her destruction. Section 4. The Dance of Death. Anna listened, her blood turning to ice as the man revealed his true nature. He wasn't content with simply watching anymore. He craved more. He craved a more hands-on approach, a more intimate dance with death. "It's time for a new game, Anna," he said, his voice a low growl that vibrated in her bones. "A game with higher stakes, a game where only one of us walks away." He leaned closer, his eyes burning into hers with a terrifying intensity. "The rules are simple," he whispered, his breath hot on her skin. "Survive the night. If you can evade me, if you can outsmart me, if you can escape, then you win." Section 5. One last call. He handed her a small black phone. It was sleek and cold in her hand, the screen dark and lifeless. "This is your lifeline, Anna," he said, a hint of amusement in his voice. "It will ring only once, at precisely 3:33 a.m. Answer it, and you might just live to see another sunrise. He stood up, his shadow falling over her like a shroud. "Until then, Anna," he said, his voice a chilling echo in the silence of the bar, "try to enjoy the city. It might be the last time you ever get the chance." And with a final chilling smile, he melted back into the shadows, leaving Anna alone with her terror, the black phone clutched in her hand like a talisman against the encroaching darkness. Section 1. City of Shadows. Anna stumbled out of the crossroads, the cold night air a slap in the face. The city lights, once a comforting illusion of safety, now felt like the watchful eyes of 1,000 predators, reflecting the terror that gnawed at her insides. Every shadow held the potential for danger, every alleyway a potential grave. The man's words echoed in her mind, a chilling mantra of her impending doom. Survive the night. Evade me. Escape. But how? Where could she possibly go? What could she possibly do to outrun a hunter who seemed to know her every move, anticipate her every thought? The black phone vibrated in her hand, a constant reminder of the deadline ticking closer. 3:33 a.m., 1 hour, 60 minutes. Each tick of the clock was a step closer to either salvation or oblivion. The city held its breath, the air thick with anticipation. The game was afoot. Section 2. The Hour of the Hunter. Anna ran. Through darkened streets and deserted alleyways, her lungs burning, legs screaming for respite. But there was no time to stop, no sanctuary to be found in this concrete jungle turned hunting ground. The city, once familiar and comforting, now felt alien and hostile. Every corner a blind turn leading her closer to her pursuer. She tried to think, to formulate a plan, but her mind was a whirlwind of fear and adrenaline. The man's words, laced with a chilling amusement, played on a loop in her head. "I'm always a step ahead, Anna. I'm everywhere and nowhere. I'm you." The black phone vibrated again, the screen flashing 3:20 a.m. Time was slipping away, each passing minute a grain of sand falling through the hourglass of her fate. She had to do something, anything to break free from this nightmare. But what? Section 3. Cat and Mouse. Anna ducked into a doorway, her chest heaving as a patrol car cruised past, its spotlight momentarily illuminating the rain-slicked street. For a fleeting moment, she considered calling out, seeking help from the very people sworn to protect her. But what could she tell them? That a man she barely knew, a man who seemed to exist only in the dead of night, was hunting her through the city streets. They would think she was delusional, hysterical, a danger to herself. And they might be right. The line between reality and the nightmare the man had woven around her was becoming increasingly blurred. She had to play his game, at least for now, use his rules against him, find the flaw in his meticulously crafted facade. But what was the flaw? What did he want from her? The answer, she realized with a chilling certainty, lay not in escaping him, but in understanding him. She had to become the hunter, not the hunted. The black phone vibrated one last time. 3:33 a.m. Anna closed her eyes, her finger hovering over the answer button. This was it. The culmination of weeks of terror, of sleepless nights and haunting whispers. The moment of truth. She took a deep breath, a silent prayer escaping her lips, and answered the call. "Hello?" Her voice trembled, barely a whisper in the stillness of the night. Silence. Then a click, and a voice. Not the gravelly, menacing tone she had come to dread, but a different voice filled with a cold, detached amusement. "Hello, Anna," the voice purred. "Or should I say goodbye?" Anna's blood ran cold. It wasn't him. This voice was different. A woman smooth as silk, yet laced with an undeniable venom. It sent a different kind of chill down her spine, a shiver that spoke of betrayal and a deeper, more intricate game at play. Her mind raced, trying to place the voice, searching for a connection in the labyrinth of fear and confusion the man had created. "Who is this?" Anna gasped, her voice barely audible above the pounding of her own heart. "What have you done with him?" A soft, melodic chuckle echoed from the other end of the line. "Him? Oh, Anna, you misunderstand. He was just a pawn, a means to an end." The voice took on a colder, sharper edge. "He played his part well, don't you think? Led you right to me." Anna stumbled back, her hand flying to her mouth to stifle a scream. The realization hit her like a physical blow. This wasn't the end of the game. It was just the beginning. The man, the phone calls, the terror of the past few weeks, it was all a prelude to something far more sinister. "You were never meant to escape, Anna," the woman's voice continued, a hint of cruel amusement in its tone. "He was always going to lead you to me. He was just a distraction." Anna's mind reeled. A distraction? From what? "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice hoarse with fear. "What do you want?" "What do I want?" The woman laughed, a chilling, empty sound that echoed through the empty streets. "Why, Anna? I want you to see the truth, to understand the role you've played in all of this." The black phone slipped from Anna's numb fingers, clattering to the pavement like a discarded playing piece. She looked around at the deserted streets, the rain-slicked buildings, the city lights reflecting 1,000 distorted versions of her own terror, and in that moment she knew there was no escape. This game, this nightmare was bigger than her, bigger than any of them, and she was trapped at its heart. The screen fades to black, the only sound, the steady, relentless ticking of a clock. 3:33 a.m.